got one that can see.
Logic before authority.
So I'm asking you to stop. I'm asking you to stop what you're doing, stop what you're thinking, because I know what you're thinking. I hear all the noise too. There's so much noise right now, meaning information coming from all directions. We're all wondering, is this the beginning of World War III, or this the beginning of this or that, or which opinion online is true, or who's on our side or who's not on our side. What I'm going to be explaining to you today and showing you today is going to cut through all of that noise for you. The information is there, whether you can see it or not, or hear it or not, is out of my hands. But I'm going to give you the information. I titled this video, World War III Started in 1918. And I chose that date because that is the date assigned to the so-called Spanish flu of 1918. A flu that was not a flu. And I'm going to explain, and I've got the receipts, as they like to say. I've got more than receipts. I've got the purchase records. I've got everything to be enough information to clearly demonstrate to anyone what is actually going on and when or where we're at. Are we in World War III? Yes, we are. We've been in World War III, if you want to give it that label, because that's what it is, a label. We've been told the history of World War I, World War II, all these different battles, wars between countries for this reason and that reason. But the truth is actually a lot simpler. The war is against you. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are. It doesn't matter. Because the war is against you. It's against your children. It's against your parents. It's against your grandchildren. It is literally against the future of your family tree. They're trying to exterminate you, us. They've been doing this for a long time. We all hear about the war in this country, like in Iraq, like we're looking at here. It looks like they've started the weather war campaigns over there now. And yes, that is a war. And yes, it is against the people. It's not against the leaders of that country. It's against the people. But there's a bigger war, a hidden war that's been going on for over 100 years. It's the spiritual war, the invisible war, the invisible enemies. What better way to attack people than to do it with a weapon that is invisible or that seems normal? What better way to come after people than to come after them through what they trust, what they believe in? Who do they trust? Well, for many of our lifetimes, we've been taught to trust the people wearing the white jackets. You know, the doctors, the scientists. And no, not all of us are still quite as trusting But you've got to understand what they've done. They're using invisible weapons for a quiet world war. Not country against country. It's the few evil, dark people, relatively few, dark people that are running this grand delusion, this grand war. And this war has been going on, like I said, over 100 years. And it is against you, the people. Don't you remember just 5, 6, 7 years ago when they tried to poison all of us and they told us that there was a invisible germ of flu? And then we all sat back and we witnessed over the last 6, 7 years or so what happened. We've seen back then, they said that the hospitals were full of people sick with the flu. Were they? Were the hospitals full? No, they weren't. The hospitals back then were relatively empty. Are they full now? They're packed. All the hospitals, check in your area, they're packed. They can't even get you in a bed if you need to be admitted to the hospital. You've got to wait in the ER a day to get a bed. Why? Because people are sick and dying. Your mama, your sons, your daughters, your grandmama, your granddaddy, they're trying to exterminate all of us. And they're doing it using invisible weapons. Now, they're putting on a big show all the time. YouTube has turned into the television. All these podcasters, all these people whispering in your ear, telling you things that sound like it's the truth. It sounds like they're being honest or they know something, and you're vigorously trying to understand what's going on. It breaks down to this. The war is not in the Middle East. The World War. The World War means it's against everybody. And it's been going on for over 100 years. I'm going to show you a documentary here in just a minute that I created. A couple of you may have seen part of it before, but it's going to take you back, and it's going to show you the receipts. It's going to show you the purchase records, the proof that they've been warring against us, trying to exterminate us for a long time. For as long as anyone here that could possibly hear this has been alive. I'm going to show you the history. I'm going to show you who rolled these things out. At least the ones that did it in public. But yet there are controllers and people behind them as well that we can't see, and we may never hear their names or see their faces. There is no coming war that's going to be worse than what's already happening. They're already killing us. They're already exterminating us. They're spraying the skies with God knows what. They're radiating us with radiation from all the cell phone towers, and lots and lots of people are sick. They've got the flu, they've got this, they've got that. And God forbid if you took one of the snake bites, one of the needles back in 2019 when Operation Warp Speed came out. You remember who rolled out the vaccine program and told everybody it was safe and effective? You remember? Some people remember, but they don't want to admit it. They still want to believe that there's some billionaire somewhere that's going to save them. There's only one savior available to you. And if you don't know who that is, I can't help you at this point. It is what it is. Now, I could go through and show you all kinds of things about the war against the people on the ground in Iraq, because that's what it's for. It's not them trying to take over the oil. They'll take it. It's not them trying to take over this or that. They're trying to break the wheel of the individual people, the human beings that are in Iraq and in other places, Lebanon and all over the place, because those people aren't going along with the plan. They're not taking the flu pals in the arm. They're not going along with the plan. They don't trust the system. They don't trust the beast. But I'm not going to elaborate on that conflict. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a documentary that is going to prove to you the ugly, dirty facts of exactly what's happening. You can choose to turn away. You can choose to ignore it. But it's at your own children's demise. I beg you to listen. I beg you to pay attention. Because I'm doing my part. I've been doing my part. Basically going on 17 years now. I've been doing my part. Shouting to anyone who would listen. Warning them. Now today, I'm telling you, the war has been going on, and it's a world war using invisible weapons, whether it be weather, whether it be the flu, whether it be whatever they're doing, like putting stuff in your water, genetically modifying your food, doing all these things. And you think that ain't a war? It's a war. It's an extermination. It's a genocide. And if you don't wake up and realize the war's already here, I can't help you. Here's the documentary. I pray that this video stays up. Please share. So here we go. Back down the proverbial rabbit hole once again to teach and remind some of what is causing the death of so many of our family members, friends, and strangers we hear about. Yet, not only what is killing them, but who is killing them while pretending to your face to be your friend or even savior. Sit back, open your mind, and prepare for the most shocking truth you could have ever imagined. The following series of videos and clips follow loosely along the 2019 to 2021 pandemic timeline rollout of a part psychological warfare and a part actual warfare, all on a worldwide scale of mostly trusting and unsuspecting population, The plan still to this day being scaled up and methodically preparing for the final clinch phases of this worldwide genocidal population reduction, transhumanism, memory reset, and the final and complete enslavement of the world's population. A literal clandestine World War III hidden in a so-called digital deception that few will ever see, touch, smell, or taste. It's all packaged perfectly in a pleasant, flavorful, and pleasurable bit-sized pieces designed to exploit every weakness of the human condition. Greed, lust, laziness, selfishness, apathy, narcissism, and godlessness. Yet the list goes on. They will have us running from the clutches of the banks and governments and control system of the world straight into the pig drop door trap via cryptocurrency smart contracts and the introduction of the false escape into the so-called metaverse, where everything and every experience of the psychological and physical pleasure will be awaiting you. Okay, let's step back through time and put a few things together.
Question: what things do the 1918 Spanish flu and the 2020 coronavirus have in common? Answer: both have a next-generation wireless communications technology being rolled out. Both have a worldwide pandemic and a lockdown of people and businesses. And both have the Johns Hopkins University and the Bill Gates family controlling the narrative across all media. Okay, we'll start here. During a speech at Georgetown University, Dr. Anthony Fauci stated on January 10th, 2017, that during the Trump administration that there would be a surprise outbreak.
Is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. And I
Please join me in welcoming Dr. Fauci.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I've spoken at after-dinner speeches and intra-dinner speeches, but I've never spoken to a line of people waiting to get their food. So it's nice to have you. Anyway, it's the idea that we are now a few days away from a new administration obviously prompted the really extraordinarily, very enjoyable, and I'm really pleased I had the opportunity to listen to the panel, both of Amy and Ron, and as well as Bill and Dr. Jafari, which really, I think, set the stage for so many of the things that we are going to be dealing with over the coming years. Given, as you heard from the introduction, that I have been around for a while and have had the opportunity and the privilege and the pleasure of serving in 5 administrations, I thought I would bring that perspective to the topic today, is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today, based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak.
So how did he know? It's because he knows history's biggest cover-up. History and the cover-up are repeating itself now. So let's take a look at history and see what it can teach us. It's the year 1900 and radio has just been invented.
Wireless radio transmission. It was the most fabulous invention of the 19th century. The public and the popular newspapers regarded it as nothing short of miraculous. And the leading scientists of the day in Europe and America, whose discoveries had made it possible, could not understand how it worked. Wireless, in its pioneering days, had nothing to do with music or entertainment. No speech or music was transmitted. But the tap-tap-tap of the telegraph key spelling out messages which had traveled mysteriously through the ether was exciting enough in a world still mostly horse-drawn and coal-fired. A world without cinema or motor car in which the telephone was still an expensive luxury. And great cities like London and New York had only recently winced at the brightness of electric light. The wider world was just learning of the possibilities of wireless telegraphy, as the new invention was called in 1897. In November that year, the very first wireless station was established in the exclusive Royal Needles Hotel on the Isle of Wight, just a short ferry ride off the coast of England. Only just the year before, X-ray photography had been invented. The biggest breakthroughs that would change the world forever were to come. And at the same time, an impending pandemic that would cost the lives of 50 million people across the world were on a collision course with each other. Wireless telegraphy in the coming decade would lead inventors such as Nikola Tesla, Guglielmo Marconi, Edison, Hertz, Popov, and Bose to allow for the creation of most of our modern entertainment and communication technologies of today. The first radio voice transmission officially recognized broadcast was in 1906 by Ernest Fisk, in which he broadcast music across the airwaves for the first time. Huge celebrations and excitement as the word traveled around the world, but an unseen invisible enemy was about to show its face. In the year 1909, the term broadcasting was coined, as radio towers for transmission of radio waves were being constructed around the world. Later, radiation towers would be shortened to radio towers, and the term radio was becoming a household name, and the desire of every person hearing of this magical new technology. In 1913, the International Convention for the Safety at Sea was convened and produced a treaty that required shipboard radio stations to be manned 24 hours a day, as the U.S. military and the militaries of the world had made great advancements in the use of radio communication, and at this point there was no turning back. Radio was here and here to stay, if only for the power it offered to the military-industrial complexes of the world. In 1916, the first regular broadcasts on 9XM Wisconsin State Weather delivered in Morse code for public consumption as a weather update program. During the next 2 years, the broadcast radiation tower technology spread like wildfire across the nations. Then, in 1918, disaster struck. A condition was being noticed among the general public that seemed as though it could not be explained. Headaches, nausea, fever, dizziness, weakness, dry cough, runny nose, and shortness of breath. The symptoms seemed to be that of what we call today the flu or coronavirus. However, in 1918, doctors had little understanding of what it is they were looking at. Most of the history written about what was ultimately called the Spanish flu of 1918 was written in hindsight, such as the term influenza virus did not exist until 1931, coined by Ernest William Goodpasture. In 1912, Goodpasture graduated from the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine with an MD degree. There, under Professors William H. Welch and George H. Whipple, he was subsequently appointed a Rockefeller Fellow in Pathology. After graduating Johns Hopkins, he joined the Harvard Medical School. In 1919, he undertook the pathological study of the then seemingly unknown pandemic engulfing the world with up to 50 million deaths recorded. In 1931, the Rockefeller Fellow-funded Dr. Goodpasture announced that he had made the breakthrough in recreating and identifying the underlying cause of the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 to 1920. This was the moment that concreted the belief by the American public, as well as people around the world, that in fact an influenza virus had killed 50 million people in the 1918 pandemic. John D. Rockefeller and his powerful friends like Frederick Taylor Gates grandfather to now known Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, co-founder of the Johns Hopkins University-sponsored Event 201, that on October 18, 2019, held a live tabletop exercise in New York City simulating a world response to a severe pandemic outbreak of the same influenza strain that was claimed to have killed 50 million in 1918. The same people, the same organizations, and the same cover-up.
Okay, now let's fast forward to the summer of 2020.
I was the head of the largest business unit at Vodafone, their headquarters in Newbury, between 2013 through to 2015. I was privy to a number of the new technologies that were coming down the pipe that was going to be implemented, namely the Internet of Things, and secondly, the 5G technology. I knew a long time ago that 5G was dangerous, but I didn't understand the correlation with the coronavirus, which I now do, and I want to be able to explain that to you. So what is happening? There is a deliberate strategy to roll out 5G, which is the fifth generation internet radio spectrum frequencies that enable mobile phones, smartphones, and all devices to function on a much faster processing ability. And with the introduction of AI, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things, where all devices will be connected, so whether it's your car, whether it's your phone, whether it's your refrigerator, whether it's your electricity in your house, it's all going to be on a smart grid. Effectively a type of matrix, unfortunately. Sorry to use that term. So what is happening is that this technology has to be rolled out globally. My company that I used to work for, as they're running their largest worldwide business unit, is Vodafone. Vodafone are in partnership with Huawei or Huawei, whatever you call them, a Chinese telecoms company. And they have been rolling out systematic 5G implementation in multiple locations. What's the relevance? The frequency that they're using, and I also ran a telecoms company back in 2010 through to 2013-14, some of you will be aware, that specialized in radio spectrum, this is the ability to take external signals from satellites into buildings. And so that the frequency that you experience in power on your phone is the same in the building as it is outside of the building. When mobile networks were created initially, they thought people will be on the road all the time, hence why they were called mobile phones. But actually what happened is people used their mobile phones in buildings, and the signal wasn't strong enough to penetrate buildings. That's called radio spectrum. And they're different megahertz frequencies, etc. So the 5G frequency is a very high frequency, very, very, very high frequency. It is just below the classification of a weapon, and I'll tell you why. The frequency that they're using, which is 10 times faster than 4G, unfortunately, when it comes into connection with human bodies, causes cell poisoning. Cell poisoning. So our bodies try to fight the radiation that is in the form of cell poisoning because of this frequency. It is effectively radiation. And what happens is our bodies kick out the toxicity or toxins with some proteins and some DNA, RNA from our cells in the form of a chemical which is called a virus. So most diseases are excretions from cells that we are trying to pull out of our body or push out of our body. And it will head towards orifices to be excreted or expunged out of our body. So our noses or our mouths. So you can understand the picture I'm painting. So what's happening, sorry for the detail, but this is going to take a bit of time. What is happening is that 5G, the frequency and the power, which is 10 times more powerful than 4G, is reacting adversely with human cells, causing cells in our bodies to be poisoned, toxic, and our natural defense mechanism is pushing out that toxicity in the form of a virus. So what you're seeing is not coronavirus per se, you're seeing cell poisoning manifesting with fluids, chemicals, viruses that the body is trying to dispose of because it's harmful to its physical body. So all that's occurring around the world, and I hear your minds thinking, well, how can that be, Pastor? But I'll explain in a moment. All that's occurring in the world is a reaction to human bodies to the electrification of the universe through 5G satellites, 5G towers, 5G cells that are being populated in major cities around the world. So this is what is causing this pandemic. So sorry to say, second point, this is the largest global cover-up in history for the impact on human beings based on technological advancements. I hope that makes sense. I don't have time to quantify that. I will give you further information in a moment. So what is happening, it's not the coronavirus. It is a virus that is being produced by cell poisoning. And therefore, the virus that we have is really a measure or indication of our cells excreting toxins. This is what's killing people. So let me give you some facts that will hopefully make this compelling. So one of the first cities that Vodafone, Highway, and some of the other technology companies rolled out the ubiquitous blanket 5G, guess where it was? Wuhan, China, where this coronavirus was supposedly meant to start in some fish market. That is complete nonsense. It started as a result of radioactive or radio frequencies at a high level, creating radiation that was toxic to cells. And that's why people were falling over, dying in the streets, etc. So they've tried to cover it up. So because it has a flu-type characteristics, they are using coronavirus to try and hide the fact that people are dying from the 5G frequency. So let me just explain. Other major cities that rolled this out, it takes 6 months for this to impact your physical body. So last year, obviously Wuhan was the first city. Then Spain rolled out 5G. Italy rolled out 5G. So you're seeing an uncommon level of fatalities because of the level of 5G penetration in these countries. Italy has had more fatalities than any other country because it is densely populated with 5G, and the older generation doesn't have the immune system to fight against it. Let me move on because of time. So Italy has rolled it out, Spain has rolled it out, most major cities have rolled it out around the world, and countries. London is one of the biggest CCTV centers, and obviously they're in the process of rolling out more 5G. What is the relevance of all of this? The relevance is the coronavirus is not what's killing people. It is clearly, categorically, unequivocally, and scientifically proven that the radio frequencies that we are being exposed to is what is killing the people. Why are they allowing it? Because of multiple agendas, but primarily because 5G is the only network with the speed to handle the future. And where we're going rapidly is a world run by AI, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, where everything's interconnected on the internet, a new global currency that's coming out, hence why I've been pushing what I've been pushing for the last 5 years in Africa with our own digital currency to combat what was coming. In addition to that, there will be driverless cars. There'll be a number of different things that basically need to run on 5G. So they cannot reverse the implementation of this technology. And they're happy for it the sacrifice to be millions of lives around the world. Just to prove the point further, the cruise ships were installed with 5G. So the people that were quarantined on the cruise ships, they were cruise ships that had 5G, and that's why the people were getting sick. Hospitals have 5G, major cities have 5G, airports have 5G. So these are places where people will automatically get sick if they're exposed to the inordinate levels of radiation through radio spectrum poisoning. Okay, so let me move on. We've had 3 pandemics in the last 120 years. The first pandemic was in 1918, which was called the Spanish flu pandemic. This was when they implemented radio waves globally and increased electrification of our universe. Guess what happens? Millions of people died 6 months later with a pandemic they called the Spanish flu pandemic. Roll on a number of years. World War II, just after that, another pandemic, which was the implementation of radar equipment globally. Satellites went up, a plethora of different satellites went up into the what they call is the Van Allen belt, basically where they store and send satellites. So when that was implemented, again, there was a number of deaths from the pandemic. The last major pandemic was in 1968, which was called the Hong Kong flu. Guess what they did then? They rolled out another level of satellite penetration in the Van Halen belt, over 100,000 satellites that were transmitting radar signals, radar field in the cosmic field, basically. So these were satellites that were pushing telecommunications and radar communication. So we had radio waves first at the beginning of the century, and then they implemented radar equipment and telecommunication satellites. These caused pandemics that killed multiple millions of people, and the last one was in 1968. So guess what's happening now? They've rolled out 5G, and this is impacting people's lives, killing people around the world, and they're covering it up in the name of coronavirus. So that is a fact. Please go and do your study 5G, the implications of the implementation. Just to help you further, one of the countries, which is a huge country that has millions of people, huge country with cold weather, Russia, has had no fatalities in the area of coronavirus. Why? Because they have not implemented 5G on a public use yet. They've only implemented it for exclusive use by the military, hence why they've had no fatalities. Just to prove the point further, you're seeing in the news now that people without underlying health issues or compromised immune systems are falling sick and dying of corona. That makes no sense that the young are dying. The reason they are dying, the facts are, the truth is that the radiation does not compromise, has no prejudice. Young or old, you will succumb to the power of radiation. Okay, so this is the fact of what's really occurring. This is part of their strategy because of the importance of 5G, and this is a global phenomenon that cannot be reversed. First point. So please understand, a lot more information I could give you. 17 minutes thus far. I wish I could give you more just on that, but trust me, do some research. There's some scholarly articles out there on the impact of there's like the Boston Health group that investigated contagions, and they basically said that the one of the viruses, the Spanish flu one, and even this one, is not a contagion. What they're doing is spreading it to people via the testing. Sorry to be honest, but that's what's happening. So when you're tested, it gives them an opportunity to contaminate you with the virus because they want to cover up the fact that millions of people will die from the excessive radio frequency radiation. So basically that's what's occurring, unfortunately. So where is this going? Why are they doing this? We know the technological reasons for it. They need a robust, scalable, fast, capable internet that can handle the petadata of information about all of your movements, all of your journeys, all of your banking transactions, your identification, all the CCTV cameras around the world, etc., etc., because they need visibility on what everyone's doing. But the primary reason beyond that, what they're doing, which is luciferic and satanic, sorry to be honest, to use that term, but what is happening is that they are implementing 3 new strategies. 1, vaccines. So the vaccines have in it toxins. You know, one of the things about vaccines, they give you the actual disease to see how the body's immune system will fight and combat the disease. So they give you the disease. But in that vaccine will consist of chemicals that light you up effectively to respond even more powerfully to the signals. So a bit like chemotherapy, radiotherapy, but what they inject in your system enables the cells to be destroyed. That vaccine will consist of a substance that will enable the frequency of 5G to be more effective in creating more fatality. So what you're seeing around the world is that they're buying time to build capacity for the hospitals, for the warehouses, and all the places they're going to convert into huge mortuaries effectively, sorry to be honest with you, to house the millions of people that are going to die from what is happening. So God has a plan. There is a plan. So let me just quickly throw that up now in case people are starting to worry. God has not given us a spirit of fear, power, and love, and of a sound mind. No weapon formed against us can prosper. So please know that this is a weapon that has been formed, but it shall not prosper against God's people. And I'll tell you why in a moment. So these are some of the things. Now, you may or may not be aware that we are electromagnetic beings. I know that sounds a bit weird. It's not new agey. I've studied it scientifically. We have electric circuits. Our nervous system is really a complex network of wiring that our masterful creator created us to have. So brain signals, synapse signals, information that travels up and down the body that tells you to move, to sneeze, to whatever, to fight disease. This is created by electrical circuitry that's in our body. The electrical circuitry then creates chemistry or chemicals, different types of chemicals that we react to when we eat and when we do different things, subject to us being exposed to light and different things. And so we are predominantly water. And then there's obviously the physical mass of the body that houses everything. But ultimately, we are an electric circuit. So we react to frequencies. We respond to vibrations. We respond to energy. So electromagnetic energy, I haven't got time to deal with it, but basically includes gamma rays, X-rays, hence why when they do X-rays, they have to stand behind certain screens. There is infrared, there is all sorts of different kinds of electromagnetic energy that is just visible. One of the other visible is light, ultraviolet light and visible light. So that's one part of energy. The other part is charged particles, and I won't get into that, but that's protons and all sorts of electrons and all sorts of different things that run about our universe, and we are given the capacity by God to be able to cope with these natural forces of energy running around the various solar system and into the Van Allen belt and around the world. What's the relevance? So frequencies affect our sense of well-being. And one of the things I'll tell you in another conversation after this is how can we combat, because all of us emit frequencies. Our heart, I did a teaching on this about the electromagnetic power of our heart and mind. That we do emit frequencies. We don't use those terms in Bible terms, but might, power, anointing, fire of God, spirit, all of these things can be scientifically proven as electrification of our beings. Either we generate it or atmospheres affect us. That's when we get together and have corporate worship and prayer. There's a level of spiritual energy. We call that the Holy Ghost, but it's a physical energy that can be felt. And many things I could talk about on that, but because of the time I can't reveal too much. Okay, so there is a solution that will help us to survive and to protect us, and I'm developing those theories further, and I will share them later on. So let me explain the game plan. So the game plan of this new order, unfortunately, it is the era of the new world order. It has commenced, and this is why the last 5 years I was pushing my economic model with presidents throughout Africa to give them an alternative digital currency and economic model that can sustain them independent of the World Bank, independent of this new world order controlled by the 1% of the 1% elites. Now, what are they doing? So you'll see already in the news today, there is announcement of the vaccines that will come. So there were 3 developments. Vaccines, which will come, which will obviously have a catastrophic impact on our physical being exposed to the radiation. Secondly, the vaccines will come with a tracking device called an RFI chip. It is a microchip that will be inserted at the same time as the vaccines. They're not even being subtle about it. They're being quite overt about it. This will give them the ability to track. It will be presented in the name of we need to know who has had vaccines, who hasn't had vaccines, so we can know who's safe, who's not safe, and who can be given license to travel and do different things on the basis that they're no longer a threat to humanity, based upon this spurious ostensible notion of the coronavirus, which is complete fallacy. It doesn't exist in the context of what's killing us. Okay, so they're just using it as a means to justify where they're going. The third area, unfortunately, is the introduction, and I saw this 5 years ago, hence why I've been working what I was working on the implementation of digital currency. A global digital currency. It will start with the US and it will roll out around the world. And this is why, as I've said, I developed my own blockchain platform with our own digital currency pegged to minerals in the ground, so Africa could have its own independence and a currency juxtaposition to other currencies that would be strong in trading, capital and financial markets. That's what your pastor's been working on behind the scenes whilst preaching and ministering. This is what we've been doing from a kingdom point of view. But let me say, this has hailed a new era of the mark of the beast. It is here, it is real, it is now. They are expediting rapidly because they realize that there's a level of esoteric enlightenment going through the earth. There's a level of technology that can fast track other people's agenda, which will be contrary to theirs, and they will want to shut it down. So what are they doing systemically, and simultaneously? They are shutting global economies down because they want to introduce two things: a new level of monopoly or oligopolies. These are 4 or 5 key multinational companies. Amazon will be the first. Google is obviously one. There'll be others that will manage the supply chain of everything that we purchase. So everything is going to be streamlined, from food to electronics to the flow of money and everything. So the second thing they're doing with this system is, other than creating these oligopolies, so they've shut the global markets down for that. They want to make as many people as possible unemployed. So please do not believe these measures they're talking about stipends and basically grants or payments to help our self-employed or people who've been made redundant. It's not going to happen to any degree that's going to affect the livelihood of people. We're heading for the largest global recession the world has ever seen, because they are changing the game. So what they're bringing in now is, and I'm conscious this is 26 minutes, but it's important information you must understand. They are bringing in the new system, the new blockchain global digital currency, which we will not have access to unless we can prove that we are no longer a harm to humanity by having the vaccines, which will be mandatory. They will force them on us. And secondly, they will insist that we have to take the chip that is a part of that same simultaneous process. Why are they shutting global economies down? Because they want to take control back from entrepreneurs, control back from family offices, family businesses. They want to completely disrupt the fabric of society as we know it. Education, employment, everything will be completely different in the matter of months, not even years. So this is their strategy to ultimately control, in terms of visibility through technology such as 5G and the internet and all that gives them access to, in terms of Internet of Things, and the control of money. If you control money, you control the power. And so that is their agenda. And obviously they want to control the population. Bill Gates, God bless him, has resigned from his position as chairman of Microsoft, and as the chairman of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He is now pushing the vaccine agenda. He has developed technology. He is responsible for a lot of this. So please, those who've held him as an innovator, he's innovating for the demise of humanity. Vaccines have always been a danger to humanity.
Dr. Thomas Cohen, MD, is a former physician turned alternative medicine advocate, author, and speaker known for his unconventional views on health and disease. His career spans decades of clinical practice, authorship of several books, and involvement in holistic health movements. Early life and education: Dr. Cohen graduated summa cum laude with a degree in biology from Duke University in 1977. He then served in the Peace Corps in Swaziland, Africa from 1977 to 1980, teaching gardening at a secondary school. During this time, he encountered the works of Weston A. Price and Rudolf Steiner, which significantly influenced his medical philosophy. He earned his medical degree from Michigan State University College of Human Medicine in 1984 and completed a family practice internship in Johnson City, New York. Medical practice and associations. Dr. Cohen practiced general medicine from 1985 to 2019 with practices in upstate New York, Petersboro, New Hampshire, and San Francisco. He served as vice president of the Physicians Association of Anthroposophical Medicine and is a founding board member and current vice president of Weston A. Price Foundation. Publication and philosophies. Dr. Cohen has authored several books that challenge conventional medical theories, including The Fourfold Path to Healing, The Nourishing Traditions Book of Baby and Child Care, co-authored with Sally Fallon Morrill, Human Heart, Cosmic Heart, Vaccines, Autoimmunity, and the Changing Nature of Childhood Illness, Cancer and the New Biology of Water, The Contagion Myth, co-authored with Sally Fallon Miller once again. His work often emphasizes holistic approaches to health, questioning widely accepted medical beliefs, such as the germ theory of disease and the role of vaccines. Controversies in license surrender. In 2017, the Medical Board of California placed Dr. Cohen on probation after prescribing an unapproved medication to a breast cancer patient without proper disclosure or review of her medical file. In December 2020, he voluntarily surrendered his medical license, citing a desire to operate outside the conventional medical system. He has since referred to himself as an unlicensed health coach and continues to promote his health philosophies through various platforms, now including inclusion in this documentary. So for those of you that need more proof, here it is.
I have 10 minutes. I wasn't sure I was going to get to this stage, but I can't help but say something about this whole coronavirus thing, if you want me to. Yes. So, again, when you know Steiner, you have the answers to the test, but you have to then figure out the details. In 1918, after the biggest pandemic, the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, Steiner was asked, what was this all about? And he said, well, viruses are simply excretions of a toxic cell. Viruses are pieces of DNA or RNA with a few other proteins. They bud out from the cell. They happen when the cell is poisoned. They are not the cause of anything. And the first way I would encourage you to think about this is if you are a famous dolphin doctor, right? And you have been studying dolphins in the Arctic Circle for hundreds of years, or at least a long time, and the dolphins were fine. And then they call you up, Fred, all the dolphins, or a lot of the dolphins are dying in the Arctic Circle. Can you come and investigate? Right? And you have one question to ask. So, show of hands. How many of you would say, I want to investigate a dolphin to see the genetic makeup of that dolphin? Nobody, because that's stupid. How many of you would say, I want to see if this dolphin and that dolphin has a virus because it might be contagious and that's why all these dolphins are getting sick? That fellow. How many of you would say, excuse my French here, did somebody put some shit in the water here? Like Exxon Valdez? Anybody? Everybody. Because that's what happened. And the cells get poisoned. They try to purify themselves by excreting debris, which we call viruses. If you go to the current theory of viruses called exosomes, and the latest head of the NIH giving a talk on the complexity of viruses, you will see this is perfectly in line with the current thinking on what a virus really is. I had a dramatic example of this when I was growing up. Right outside our house, there was a wetlands, and it was full of frogs, and the frogs kept me up at night, so I taped the windows, and they were, in the spring, they made a big racket. And then over time, the frogs were all gone. How many thinks the frogs had a genetic disease? How many thinks the frogs had a virus? How many thinks somebody put DDT into the water? That's what happened. Diseases are poisoning. It's one of the reasons why vaccines, so let me skip that for a minute. So what happened in 1918? There was a huge, in every pandemic in the last 150 years, there was a quantum leap in the electrification of the Earth. In 1918, late fall of 1917, there was the introduction of radio waves around the world. Whenever you expose any biological system to a new electromagnetic field, you poison it, you kill some, and the rest go into a kind of suspended animation so that, interestingly, they live a little bit longer and sicker. And then starts in World War II with the next pandemic with the introduction of radar equipment all over the Earth, blanketing the entire Earth in radar fields. First time humans have ever been exposed to that. In 1968, there was the Hong Kong flu, and it was the first time the Earth has a protective layer in the Van Allen belt, which essentially integrates the cosmic fields from the sun and the Earth, from the moon and Jupiter, etc., integrates that and essentially distributes that to the living beings of the Earth. And we put satellites emitting radioactive frequencies in the Van Allen belt. Within 6 months, we had a new viral pandemic. Why viral? Because the people are poisoned, they excrete toxins, they look like viruses. People think it's a flu epidemic. In the 1918 epidemic, the Boston Health Department decided to investigate the contagiousness of this. So they, believe it or not, took hundreds of people with the flu and they sucked the snot out of their nose and injected it into the healthy people who didn't have the flu, and not one time could they make the next person sick. They did this over and over again, and they were not able to demonstrate contagion. They even did it with horses who apparently got the Spanish flu, and they put bags over their head, and the horses sneezed in the bag, and they put the bag over the next horse, and not one horse got sick. You can read about this in a book called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg, who chronicles all the steps in the electrification of the Earth and how within 6 months there was a new flu pandemic all over the world. And when you hear the normal explanations, how did it go from Kansas to South Africa in 2 weeks? So the entire world got the symptoms at the same time, in spite of the fact that the mode of transportation was horseback and boats, and there's no explanation for it. They just say, we don't know how that happened. But when you think about it, with these radio waves and other frequencies that some of you have in your pocket and on your wrist, you can send a signal to Japan and it arrives instantaneously. So any of you who don't believe there is an electromagnetic field that communicates globally within seconds just is not paying attention to this. And I will only finish by pointing out that there has been a dramatic and quantum leap in the last 6 months with the electrification of the Earth. And I'm sure a lot of you know what that is. It's called 5G, where they now have 20,000 radiation-emitting satellites, just like the radiation-emitting thing in your pocket and on your wrist and that you use all the time. That is not compatible with health. I'm sorry to say it, it's not compatible with health. That is a water destructuring device. And for any of you who say, yeah, well, we're not electrical beings, we're just physical matter, then don't bother doing an EKG or an EEG or a nerve conduction test, because we are electrical beings and the chemicals are only the byproduct of those electrical impulses. And I'll finish with, anybody want to make one guess as to where the first completely blanketed 5G city in the world was? Exactly. So when you start thinking about this, we are in an existential crisis here, folks, the likes of which humankind has never seen. And I don't want to go all Old Testament prophet on you, but this is something that is unprecedented. The putting of 100,000 satellites in the very blanket of the Earth. And by the way, as I was going to say earlier, this actually has something to do with the vaccine question. And this got brought home to me because about a year ago or so, I had a patient who came in who was totally fine, a surfer and all, and then he works as an electrician putting in Wi-Fi systems for very wealthy people. Electricians have a very high mortality rate, but he was fine. And then he breaks his arm and he gets a metal plate put in his arm. 3 months later, he couldn't get out of bed and was total, heart irregularities, just total collapse. The susceptibility has to do with how much metal you have in your body, as well as the quality of the water in your cells. So if you start injecting aluminum in people, they become receptors for absorbing increased electromagnetic fields, and that is a perfect storm for the kind of deterioration of the species, which is what we're now experiencing. And I'm just going to finish with one more thing, which I like too, is a quote from Rudolf Steiner. And by the way, this was around 1917, so it was a different time. In times when there were no electrical currents, when the air was not swarming with electrical influences, we're talking 1917, it was easier to be human. For this reason, in order to be human at all today, it is necessary to expend much stronger spiritual capacities than was necessary a century ago. So I'll just leave you with whatever you can do to increase your spiritual capacities, because it's really damn hard to be a human being these days. So thanks for listening.
Now for a quick reminder.
Is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak.
But I want to say that I know that this is a challenging time for all Americans. We're enduring a great national trial, and we will prove that we can meet the moment. I want to assure the American people that we're doing everything we can each day to confront and ultimately defeat this horrible, invisible enemy. We're at war. In a true sense, we're at war, and we're fighting an invisible enemy. Think of that. The vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind. We would have had in 1917, remember the Spanish flu, killed perhaps 100 million people. Actually, it ended the First World War because the soldiers were so. A lot of people don't know that. The soldiers got so sick. It was a terrible thing. There were no vaccines. There was no anything. I came up with a vaccine, with 3 vaccines. All are very, very good. Came up with 3 of them in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take 5 to 12 years.
And yet more people have died under COVID this year, by the way, under Joe Biden, than under you. And more people took the vaccine this year. So people are questioning how...
Well, no, the vaccine worked, but some people aren't taking it. The ones that get very sick and go to the hospital are the ones that don't take the vaccine. But it's still their choice. And if you take the vaccine, you're protected. Look, the results of the vaccine are very good. And if you do get it, it's a very minor form. People aren't dying when they take the vaccine.
What about the masking of children? That's a big one for moms right now.
I think it's a terrible thing.
That flies in the face of science. The kids have a virtual 0% chance of dying of COVID, and yet they're insisting on these vaccine mandates. On these masking mandates, and now even the vaccine mandates for small children. And what's going on there?
I think what's happening is you look at the masks where Fauci and a lot of other people said masks don't mean anything. All of a sudden he becomes a radical masker.
Crazy.
I don't like to see the kids with the masks on. They're sitting in school. They have a hard enough time sitting in school.
It's like China. I've been to China.
Well, and yet China's education system's a hell of a lot better than ours. You know what? They're rated number 2 or 3, and we're rated number 44.
Very, very interesting. I can't wait to ask more questions, but first, we're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors.
So now you should understand much of the truth behind the whole historical planned and repeated nature of this whole pandemic event 201, as they called it in October of 2019 at the Johns Hopkins University event 201. Again, the same people running the show in 1918, covering up the rollout of wireless towers and technology and blaming the sickness and deaths on the Spanish flu, a virus that never existed, just like the coronavirus today that never existed. It was a lie then and still is again today. So let me show you an article written July 12th, 1918, discovered on archive.org, that reveals the truth in 103-year-old print. Okay, so here we are on the Internet Archive, okay? You can run searches on here for all kinds of subjects, and typically it's for historical information. Plus, you can also upload your current content if you have things that you want to be archived through their system, and it seems to be a good place to hide the truth in plain sight, you might say. So what I did was run a search on here looking for, let me show you here. So I had run several searches and, spend hours trying to locate what I'm looking for, and what I'm looking for is information that shows that they are repeating the same thing again today that they did in 1918. And not only that, something that has some real evidence and teeth. And well, I found it. I found a lot of stuff. You can see right here where the hour's pointing to, it says certificates of vaccination, right? And that's a document that goes into showing that even back then, you had to prove that you had a vaccination. You had to have a certificate. Show me your papers, just like in Germany, right? However, after hours of reading and going through documents, I ran across this one. It says, vaccination of school children, local board of, and it goes on. So I wanted to take a look at this, and some of the things I found, well, they confirm exactly what I have been theorizing all along from the very beginning. So let's take a look. Now I'm going to link this down below so you can go and read this whole thing for yourself and prove this to yourself. But I've just cut out snippets here that I'm going to read to you that are within this article. It says, vaccination of school children. Arkansas Supreme Court upholds a regulation requiring vaccination of pupils in the schools of the state. Requiring vaccination. In 1917, going into 1918, where everybody got sick and died. So they're requiring it in Arkansas. Now, what do you reckon if they're requiring it in Arkansas back then? They might be requiring it in some other places, not only in the United States, but around the world, right? So let's keep reading here. In December of 1917, the State Board of Health of Arkansas adopted a regulation requiring a certificate of successful and recent vaccination or a certificate of immunity from smallpox as a condition to attendance upon the schools of the states. The Supreme Court of the state, in an opinion rendered June 3rd, 1918, decided that the regulation was valid. The court said, it is true that the Board of Health is not authorized to manage or control the schools of the state, either public or private. And then it goes on, and I'm going to show you some more. But here we have it in 1917 going into 18. We have them requiring it in the schools. They're taking something away from you to force you to try to force you to have your children needle plunged into them, squirting something into their body that's doing something, and they're blaming it on the smallpox. Another boogeyman that's invisible and no way to prove whether it exists or not for most people, but not for us. Let's continue on. So as I was previously finishing that up, it said that the court said it is true that the Board of Health is not authorized to manage or control the schools of the state, either public or private. And then it continued on. Let me pull the other document here. The power is conferred upon other agencies. The prevention of the spread of contagious and infectious diseases by preventing unvaccinated persons from associating with the school children and school teachers of the state in no way infringes upon the constitutional right of the to attend schools or the management and control thereof by school boards and directors. This is what the court said, right? That they could make them, you got to have a needle plunged into your arm that you don't know what's in it, but we're going to tell you it's for smallpox. Or you can't go to school. Can't get the education. And you know what that means. You can't get all these other things when you get grown up, right? Unbelievable. Let's continue on. Now check this out. The necessity for and reasonableness of the regulations is largely within the judgment of the board. Every presumption is indulged in favor of the necessity of the rule, and courts will not interfere with acts of health authorities unless it is apparent that the rule is arbitrary. You know, like making you get a needle jabbed into you. Listen up. We think the existing conditions in the state of Arkansas at the time of the rule was adopted warranted at the adoption of such a rule. It is commonly known that at the time that smallpox was prevalent in the state, and that unless preventive measures were adopted, a smallpox epidemic might result. It was adopted during the period of the mobilization of the Arkansas Army quota. Soldiers were being transported in and out of the state in great numbers. The virtue of vaccination as a preventative of smallpox can not longer be doubted. Okay, we have several things going on here. However, the main thing I want to point out is that they brought up the Arkansas Army, that they were mobilizing the Army in and out of the state. And do you think that they may have been making the soldiers back then get the vaccinations or so-called vaccinations? Do you think it's possible that they were making the soldiers do it if they were making the children do it? Of course they were. So they were putting the needles in all of these people. It was rampant back then. They had scared them with smallpox, just like they've done now with coronavirus. See, the people hadn't started really dying off now. They had just scared them, just like they've done with the coronavirus or COVID-19. So we've got soldiers being vaccinated going all over everywhere, and we got the same thing going on right now in every way, shape, and form, don't we? So then it continues on. It says, the beginning of the bottom paragraph, it is contended that if the contended, meaning people are saying that, hey, it's contended. It is contended that if the rule stands, the Compulsory Education Act, which is what they called it back then, necessarily brings about compulsory, meaning forced, vaccination. And that compulsory vaccination is in conflict with the Constitution. People were arguing about it, fighting back, right? It is true that there is no American authority for compulsory vaccination in the sense of forcing one, meaning holding you down, to submit his person thereto but there is authority for penalizing one who refuses to comply with an order or law requiring vaccination. So they're saying, back then they were saying, we can't force you, but we're going to do, well, you can't go in Walmart. Of course, they didn't have Walmart back then. But you can't do all these things. We're going to take your job from you. We're going to penalize you on this, that, and the other. And it's the same thing I've been saying for years. You're going to have to be willing to give up just about anything and everything in order to retain yourself. In order to keep this poison from being put in your system. And I'm not going to get into what all is in this video, but you know that it is poison. That's why you're here listening to this video. And if you don't know it's poison, just do your research. Look up the words iron oxide and the letters mRNA. Look up the word Hydra and the letters mRNA. mRNA is one of the terms they use for the technology that they use to alter your DNA. Your DNA is the actual code and script that your creator put into your body. And it is the original code. It's whatever you like to call your Most High, our creator. It is the code we were given. Now, these people want to change it. And it's not just wanting to change it, it's even worse than just that. You don't want to know half the things that are going on.
The vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind.
She is now in 04 Noy Street, but she does say she's on 113, but she's close to that location of Noy Street. It's regional. Okay, so where goes I believe so. It does say 110 on the map in Lowell Street. Kind of an area there after the highway. Okay, and what type of car are you in?
We're in a Ford Expedition. I think it's a thingy. You remember the car? 2004 Ford Expedition.
SDN
What color? Black. It's black with a beige, like a beige bottom.
Black Expedition.
I can't. What?
Has anything like this ever happened to your mother before?
No.
They got the vaccine.
I don't. None that I know of.
I can't. Please don't. What's your mother trying to say? We have help on the way. They're already been dispatched. They're coming.
So we were just driving, and then I saw her hand started shaking on the wheel, and she looked kind of stressed out. So I was, worried, and she pulled over, and just started like seizing or whatever, and I panicked and called 911.
I got the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, on Sunday, 4 days ago, maybe.
Got it on Sunday?
Yeah, but I have long COVID, so I already am like immune to COVID, but I thought that the vaccine.
Do you see the fire truck that said that just on the TV?
Yeah, right behind us.
Okay. All right, just talk to them and they'll take care of it, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But if there's one message that needs to cut through all this, the vaccines are safe. I promise you, they are safe and effective.
Researchers have confirmed that the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID vaccine is safe and effective.
This is what you don't see. This.
The vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind.
I am the chosen one. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I have saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, heavens, why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
I got the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, on Sunday, 4 days ago, maybe.
Got it on Sunday?
Yeah, but I have long COVID, so I already am like immune to COVID, but I thought that the vaccine.
Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Well, common sense would tell you if you have a man standing in front of you saying he's going to reduce the world's population by 10 or 15% using vaccines, what does that mean to you? It means somebody's going to die because you put a vaccine in them. It doesn't mean you're going to save people. That's pretty much common sense in my brain. But yet I saw him say it. He said it. And here we are. I don't know. I'm just, here we are. I'm now an anti-vaxxer. I wasn't before. From what I've learned here with this and seeing what I've seen, not just in the funeral home, but you know, what everybody else has had an opportunity to see, I don't want to take any vaccine because I don't trust the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, I just buried someone recently who died suddenly, wasn't sick, person in their 60s, but otherwise was not sick. And I met with the family, and that was my first question, was what happened to him? Somebody mentioned to go onto Google and then type in died suddenly and find the news articles that pop up.
Doing a died suddenly search on Google as of August 25th, 2024, you can see that the died suddenly being reported in Google is continuing to happen. And it's not only people, but it's animals. Billions of crabs suddenly die in ocean around Alaska. Here's a judge with a heart attack, died suddenly. Here's freshman orientation due to student sudden death, canceled. Here's the judge again. Here is a woman, she was 84, so you could kind of expect that, but she died suddenly. Here's one about a college football student 3 days ago. Here's a girl's sudden death revealed 2 days ago. Here is a 25-year-old Bank of America employee died suddenly weeks after 35-year-old colleague died. Here is 2 days ago, husband of beloved socialite Mary Lou Whitney dies suddenly. Take a look at one more page here. Here's 2 weeks ago, Baltimore Ravens former teammates completely heartbroken over the death of Jacoby Jones. Sudden cardiac arrest in young people. Talking about people dying suddenly. Here's a Pinkies Up for Lucy, a little girl named Lucy who died in Kentucky schools, honor fourth grader who died suddenly. So as you can see, it continues to this day. This is not over. We're in the middle of the genocide right now, and they're continuously still pushing the vaccinations, aren't they?
An elderly woman has died in what's believed to be South Australia's first case of fatal blood clotting caused by the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine.
Korea, with medical experts confirming the death of a Central Coast woman is likely linked to the jab.
Now let us learn the truth about viruses and germ theory.
This is strawberry. As an organism, it is made up of millions of tiny cells, proteins, tissues, and genetic materials that make up the organism as a whole, called a strawberry. Metaphorically, it can also represent a single human cell. When slit open, we can see all of the proteins, microbes, and parts within the cell that make up the entire cell as a whole. This particular strawberry is already dying because it has been picked from the nourishing vine that supplies it its life-giving oxygen, water, and minerals from the soil below. The only reason it is still alive is because it is surviving on the last oxygen, water, and minerals that its vine gave it before it was picked. Its days are numbered. The average adult human loses between 50 and 70 billion cells each day due to apoptosis, meaning the natural programmed death of old cells, plus millions of dying bacteria and microbes, and in the case of physical injury or a poisonous, acidic blood pH from stress, worry, poor diet, lack of oxygen, and environmental toxins, billions more cells can die from necrosis, or unnatural traumatic cell death. Our body's bacteria and microzyma eat all of this dead cell debris, and the body expels whatever they don't eat through the various excretory organs. Germs and bacteria are dead cell debris eaters. Viruses are nothing more than dead cell debris. Virologists observed in the late 1960s that when certain cells die either naturally or by being poisoned in a petri dish, the surface proteins morph into spike proteins, which they call virions, and the bulbous surface reminded them of the sun's solar corona or halo. So they named this a coronavirus, from the Latin corona, meaning crown or wreath. This is a cell. This is dead cell debris, or a virus. Cell, virus. This virus did not kill this cell. It was already dying of necrosis from the moment it was picked from the nourishing vine, and my fist gave it the finishing blow. This virus is neither harmful nor contagious. It is simply dead cell debris. Now, the internal bacteria inside of the cell start to grow and eat the dead cell debris. They do not come from the atmosphere. They come from inside of the dying cell. Germs, dead cell debris eaters. Just like the virus, these bacteria did not kill these strawberries and are not killing them right now. They were dying from the moment they were picked from the vine in both of these cases, and my fist finished the job in the case of the jelly virus on the right. Just like this bird did not kill this roadkill, the car that ran it over killed it. The bird is the metaphorical germ, eating the dead cell debris. Unfortunately, the early pioneers of virology like Virchow, Pasteur, Crook, and later Enders noticed that they always found these bacteria and germs in the tissue samples of people who had died or suffered from a disease, and they just assumed they must have been the cause of the disease, since they were always there. They didn't yet notice the bacteria were coming from inside the dying cells themselves. No different than noticing the rooster crows just before the sun rises, and assuming that rooster crowing must cause the sun to rise. The bogus germ theory of disease was born, and soon a multi-billion-dollar-a-year pharmaceutical industry arose, selling people endless snake oil, cold and flu medications, antibiotics, vaccinations, and surgical procedures to remove excretory organs, in the name of protecting us from these harmless germs. Some virologists are brainwashed in their allopathic medical schools and just not clever people. Others know the truth and are just plain frauds, living off the cash cow. But here's what they are doing in a nutshell. They take a sample of sputum or snot, which is nothing more than the dead rotting flesh or cellular debris from the billions of human and bacteria cells that die every day inside our bodies and are being excreted by the lungs, as well as the other excretory organs, which is why we find the different viruses in the different excretory organs, like this smashed strawberry virus. Then they mix those cells in a petri dish tissue culture with the sick dying flesh and cells of monkey kidney tissue, like this dying pineapple, and then add some other sick tissue, like cancerous alveolar A549 cells from human lungs with cancer. Then they add dying cells from sick calf and bovine, just like this dying lettuce. And so, you're left with this genetic soup blend of all sorts of dying cellular debris and genetic material from various sources. Then, virologists starve that soup of random genetic human, bacterial, cow, monkey kidney, and lung cancer cells and tissue of all nutrients to kill and deteriorate them even faster, just like picking the strawberry off of its nourishing vine. And they poison it with known tissue-killing and deteriorating substances like gentamicin and amphotericin. And lo and behold, as the nutrient starvation and poisons deteriorate the cells, the internal bacteria arise to eat the debris, and the cell proteins dissolve into spike proteins with the corona crown-looking bubbles, and virologists say, "Oh my God, there it is, the virus. We can see it now." Virologists never see these spike proteins before they starve and poison the cells. So sometimes they even add a protein-dissolving enzyme, like trypsin, which doesn't dissolve the cell's protein coating evenly, and thus leaves the appearance of spike proteins. Just like this artist can't chisel this piece of wood evenly all at one time. So there they are, plain as day under the microscope, spike proteins. This piece of wood must be a coronavirus. Virologists claim that the full genome sequence for one of these alleged viruses should be 30,000 nucleotide base pairs long. But how would they know? They have never once taken a snot sample, isolated a full genomic virus organism from it, nor have they ever done that by taking their usual genetic soup mix of human snot, monkey, cow, and lung cancer tissue that they've poisoned with enzymes and chemicals, and isolated an actual virus organism out of that with a full 30,000 base pair sequence. Because they can't. Because there is no virus organism to isolate. A virus is just broken down partial fragments of cellular genetic material. Virus, dead cell debris. As virologist Stefan Lanka points out, when cells die, they are broken down into submicroscopic particles, some of which virologists arbitrarily, meaning for no scientific reason, label viruses. Dying cell, submicroscopic dead cell debris. Cell, submicroscopic dead cell debris. Since there is no 30,000 base pair long virus organism in broken down cellular subatomic particle debris, they have to design a fraudulent PCR test that is not looking for any such thing in your snot sample, but rather smaller broken down genetic fragment primer sequences of 18 to 300 base pairs long out of 30,000 that are found in nearly anything and everything, like 90 known human genetic sequences and 92 known animal and bacterial genetic sequences, which is why we see COVID-19 positive tests on kiwis, goats, birds, Coca-Cola, papaya, durians, apple juice, motor oil, Spanish river water, blueberries, and now tap water right out of the bathroom sink. Geneticists and bacteriologists both use the Sanger and Maxam Gilbert methods to isolate other smaller than cell-sized microparticles in organisms like bacteriophages, bacteria, and even tiny little exosomes to map out their entire full genetic sequences. But since viruses are fictional make-believe organisms, virologists have to invent a make-believe full genome in a computer, which they call an in silico genome, like this paper, in silico-based whole genome phylogenetic analysis of SARS-CoV-2. In silico means in a computer simulation, virtual reality, fabricated, make-believe, fictional, completely made up, or simply imaginary. You'd be understandably frightened if fireologists told you an in silico fire was raging down your street and heading towards your house, until you go outside and see there is no fire, because it is an imaginary, computer-simulated in silico fire. Just like COVID-19 is an in silico virus. Virologists took the genetic snot soup sample from a sick person in a Wuhan, China hospital with atypical pneumonia. They built an in silico COVID-19 virus genome in their computer using the BLAST tool, mixing the previously in silico made imaginary sequences of SARS, Wuhan Hu1, and bat coronavirus RATG13, and then they told the computer to rearrange that sick person's genetic snot soup sample until it matched the new SARS-CoV-2 sequence their computer made up. If you wanted to, you could tell the BLAST tool to put in the genetic sequence of a banana, and the computer would rearrange anybody's genetic snot soup fragments until they matched a full banana genome. Since no two people on Earth have the same exact genetic fragments floating around in their snot, every time you tell the computer to rearrange someone's snot into the made-up in silico COVID-19 genome template, the computer will have to do it slightly differently than the original Wuhan person, making errors and having to fill in the blanks along the way. and they call this virus mutations, showing us brainwashed imbeciles wearing hazmat suits to protect them from an in silico computer glitch, variations or mutated strains, and scare you into taking endless injections each year to protect you from the newest deadly make-believe in silico mutation. Selling people fire insurance for make-believe fires. Ask yourself this: would you inject yourself with your grandma's old rotting kidney tissue to make you immune from catching her old age? Would you inject yourself with a teenager's pus-filled acne to make you immune from catching his acne? Then why would you inject yourself with chemically poisoned, rotting flesh from sick, dying monkey kidneys and sick cows, as well as somebody's lung cancer cells, to make you immune from poisoning your own cells to death through your own lifestyle choices, diet, stressful mindset, and environmental toxins? Because that injection is exactly what a vaccine is. But you have a live virus vaccine, you say. Sure, viruses are dead cell debris, not living cell debris. So not only do they inject you with starved and poisoned to death rotting human cancer cells, dead rotting cow cells, and dead rotting chimpanzee kidney cells, like this AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine insert shows, but they also mix that dead rotting flesh with the dying but still slightly alive tissue of a genetically modified human fetus's embryonic kidney tissue. And now you have a live virus in you as well. Why not just cut out the middleman and start eating dead babies for health? Now, some people might be appalled by that statement, yet remarkably are not appalled by walking out of a clinic with a sticker on their shirt that proudly says, "I just injected aborted fetal kidney tissue into my bloodstream for no beneficial reason." What's the difference? As Dr. Tom Cowan says, instead of discussing how dangerous and ineffective vaccines are, we need to discuss how bacteria and viruses have never been proven to cause any disease. And as virologist Stefan Lanka says, anyone who closely analyzes what virologists actually do in the laboratory to prove that these particles they call viruses cause disease will easily see the absurdity of their conclusions. And here's what the general public is not being told. The New York State Health Department did an elaborate polio study and did not nor could not make even just one person or animal sick by either close contact with polio sufferers or injection of their mucus. The United States Public Health Service did the same extensive experiments and also could not successfully make even one person sick. Other experiments done at the time swabbed the mouths and throats of prisoners and orphans with the mucus of people sick with polio and could not make a single person sick. All three extensive studies concluded polio was not contagious. During the 1918 Spanish flu, Dr. Milton Rosenau and the U.S. Public Health Service tried close contact, breathing, intimate contact, casual contact, injection of mucus into the bloodstream, and even rubbing swabs from sick people directly into the eyes of hundreds of healthy people. In not one instance could they even make just one person sick. The Spanish flu was also not contagious. They even tried it with horses and could not make one single horse sick. You can learn about the real causes of that pandemic in the last 20 minutes of the film Biochemistry Debunks Corona. Dr. Fraser of Canada and Dr. Powell of California have experimented with billions of germs, bacteria, and all varieties, but they have been unable to produce a single disease by the introduction of germs into human subjects. Not one. Dr. Waite tried for years to prove the germ theory, but could not do so. Germs are neither harmful nor contagious. From 1933 to the present day, virologists have been unable to present any experimental study proving that influenza spreads through normal contact between people, even injection. All attempts to do so have met with failure. That is why they have to call it germ theory and cannot call it germ fact. You are now immune forever from COVID-19 and all other contagious viruses because you cannot catch something that does not exist.
Revelation 6. When the Lamb opened the second seal, I heard a second living creature say, "Come." Then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. And here is the Abraham coin, which has a large or great sword on it, signed by the chosen one. And here's the symbolism on the great sword of what this weapon is, and all the tools of the weapon in order to achieve what they see as heaven. I researched, produced, and edited this video in a way that in hopes even a child could understand the content. We have been lied to and poisoned since birth. This is not a theory, but rather proven fact. The end game is even written in stone. reduce the population of Earth to a more manageable 500 million, down from a claimed 8 billion humans. But they cannot do this without our help. We have to volunteer to die and kill each other as well. This is why the rider of the red horse was given the power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. And they will use their great sword to cause many to volunteer for death and to kill each other. Okay, does this count as killing each other? I could show you 100 more. Of course, you know this. Does that count as killing each other? When one person is believing a lie and they take a needle and they plunge it into another person's arm that is believing the same lie and that person dies, is that killing each other? Absolutely it is. You may say, well, this doesn't have anything to do with that. They don't believe and they're not orchestrating this like it is the red horse from Revelations, right? They're not doing that. Really? Let me prove it to you. So what you're looking at is the launch patches for SpaceX for 2 missions that went up last summer. They make a patch when they have a launch that they're going to do. And they even have these images on the rockets themselves. Now you'll notice there's a white horseman and there's a red horseman. And it says, our time has come. And it shows on there that one of them has a set of swords. See it down around the bottom down there, where right after our time has come, it has swords. So that horseman, that red horseman on the red horse, has a set of swords, isn't he? And he's going to war, going to battle. And the white horseman that you see here, which I've already done a video and showed you exactly what the white horseman is, and it is tied directly to this. You can see that that horseman has a bow and has a crown on both sides of our time has come. Now what do you think they mean putting this on rockets that they're shooting into space, claiming they're putting up satellites, and they're designing these patches for it that they wear on their arms, of a white horse and a red horse with the exact description of Revelation 6. You can prove this to yourself. Just Google this. NROL 1-129. And the words, our time has come. And then click and you'll see it there, or either click on images and you'll see it. But now you know the truth about a lot of things that have come around, and my concept of what happened with the Spanish flu has proven out to be absolutely 100% true. All right, guys, that's it for this video. I do have a couple of other clips I'm going to show you here real quick as we're closing out, but I want you to take a look at the links down below. It has links to all of my other platforms that I have, even my YouTube channel, if you are not familiar with me from YouTube. But I did not upload this on YouTube because I cannot. And also there are links there that show you how you can support my work, because this is all I do and all I have done for 10 years. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you. I love you. Our Father in heaven loves you. And just don't fall for these lies. Don't fall for the deception. turn around and just walk away.
Droid.
Droid DNA augmentation initiated. Neural speeds increasing to 4G LTE. Brain upgrading to a quad-core processor. Predictive intelligence with Google Now complete.
Introducing Droid DNA by HTC. It's not an upgrade to your phone, it's an upgrade to yourself.
Droid.
Droid DNA augmentation initiated. Vision expanding to a 5-inch 1080p HD display and camera. Touch acquiring NFC. Hearing evolving with Beats audio. Wireless charging activated.
Introducing Droid DNA by HTC. It's not an upgrade to your phone, it's an upgrade to yourself.
This droid has evolved to do even more. Now it integrates your work email so you can be hooked up to everything you need to do. Now it does 1 gigahertz speed on a more intuitive keyboard. Turning you into an instrument of efficiency. Introducing the new Droid 2 by Motorola, part of the next generation of DOS.
This gentleman here, he's an installer, and you can see what he's installing. He took the cover off of a 1, 2, 3, 4, you know what the next number is, and the letter right after F. Okay, I can't say it anymore because the video just won't stay up. He is an installer, and he took the circuit board cover off and looked at the circuit board on it. And if you take a look, well, let me show you. Okay, so what you're looking at here is a driver board. Okay, it is the driver board for a antenna. The antenna, as you can see there, it screws on that little silver thing at the top. That's where this puts out its power, its transmission, okay? And it is for a 1, 2, 3, 4 tower. You know what I'm saying? That is what this is. And see the word there? That is on the antenna, the output source, okay? It's not just on the board. It's right on the antenna output. You know what this means? This means that my investigation and understanding of what happened in 1918 when it comes to the invention of radio, I was dead on. Now, this ain't good news. This is bad news. It's bad news that I was right. And I knew that all along. But y'all guys needed to be warned. And this right here confirms it. So here we are, together at the end of the documentary. All the work has been done. All the research has been done. All the information and the truth has been delivered to you. Okay, guys, I'll save you the final words there. I hope that you see that most all of everything that's going on in the world is a distraction from the fact that there's a bigger hidden war. A world war that's been going on for over 100 years that's hidden. The Bible talks about that, but it uses the word spiritual war. And what does it say? It says you need to know the truth. Then you'll be protected from that spiritual war. The spiritual world is a world that is invisible to us. Do they not like to try to be like God and hide their doings? Yes, they do. So that is exactly what is going on. I've warned you. I've done my duty for 16, 17 years now. If anyone here appreciates this work, there are links below where you can maybe send me a love gift in appreciation, which many of you have done in the past. And I thank you so much for that. It's allowed me to be able to come to understand things just like what I've shown you today. You're the ones that allowed that to happen. This isn't all about me. It really is about us and us coming together. I love you. Please try to get this information to anyone that you think really needs to see it, because all of the noise of everything that's going on is doing nothing but confusing people. Yeah, they want to know what's happening in Iran. Yeah, they want to know what's happening in here and there and what's going on even here, and the gas prices and 500 different things happening at the same time. But the bottom line is that we are experiencing a worldwide spiritual invisible war that they're waging against us to try, according to the Bible, to destroy the seed of the woman who carries the testimony of Jesus Christ. Whether you believe in any of those words or not, it's still what's happening. It doesn't matter if you subscribe to any religious text, any religious way of thinking or not. You see, I'm not religious. I don't believe in religions. I believe in God, and I believe that He sent an image of Himself here in order to try to make a change in this world in the past. But even more than that, I believe that y'all guys deserve to know the truth. And y'all guys are the reason I've been able to do this. And I thank you. I love you. Father in heaven loves you all. And He's the one that we need to be talking to. He's the one that we need to be confiding in.
I've got one that can see.
Logic before authority.